My name is Claire Greensfelder, and I work with the International Forum on Globalization in San Francisco, California. We are a north-south think tank involved with scholars and activists and writers from all over the world who primarily work on issues of economic globalization. And we also have programs on trade, finance, climate, supporting indigenous people's rights. And my favorite of our new programs called Is Capitalism Over?, which is one of the ones that we are now working on. But this workshop today is a collaborative effort of what has become a very energetic and effective and collegial nuclear caucus here at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. A number of us have been working together now for 3 to 5 to 15 years. And there are a number of sponsors of this event today. Basically, we've been doing actions and interventions and efforts here to keep nuclear power out of the climate agreements as an acceptable investment mechanism for clean energy development. Please give a hand for all the organizers of this work. You're here today for this panel on uranium mining. A lot of people say, well, wait a minute, what does uranium mining have to do with climate change? And with all the publicity and hype about the renaissance of nuclear power and how it's a clean energy and how it's a source that we should be going back to, yes, when they look at nuclear power, they talk about the absolute point of generation, when you have a nuclear chain reaction that's creating great heat and causing water to boil and driving a steam turbine. It's just a very fancy steam engine. But they never talk about, from mining to milling all the way to the other side of nuclear waste storage, of all the potential impacts along the way. And for the indigenous peoples of the world and the local peoples of the world, a renaissance of nuclear power would be a renaissance of local disaster. And we have a panel here today that is going to be sharing some of their experience. We also, I just want to recognize, we have a number of people from, colleagues of mine from the US who are from sites that have been dramatically affected by the nuclear fuel chain. I just want to briefly introduce them. If we have time, I'd love to have them talk in the question and answer period. Dr. Mildred McLean from Savannah, Georgia, who has fought for years against the Savannah River, a nuclear plant there. And Teresa from Chimayo, New Mexico, major role in fighting uranium mining, nuclear testing, and other impacts, health impacts on the peoples of the American Southwest. And Gary, would you like to stand up and introduce yourself?
I'm traditional chief Gary Harrison from Chickaloon in Alaska. And the reason why you think that maybe Alaska doesn't have any problems, but they've buried nuclear waste up at Point Hope. It's affected animals and people, and also if they want to mine uranium in a couple of sites in Alaska, and also if you understand the way that toxins and everything travel towards the poles, so do the radioactive nuclides. And our background there for radioactive nuclides is very high, and that's why she's introducing me.
And
thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And I just want to also honor the presence of a traditional chief with us today. It's we're honored to have you with us, all the way from way up north. And are there any other folks in the audience who I don't know about who are also coming from nuclear impacted sites? Yes, please.
Brenda Lynn Jenkins, Aiken, South Carolina, and we are the home of the Savannah River Site nuclear facility.
So, Anne, yes?
I come from Toronto, and we are right next to the Pickering nuclear generating stations, where 20,000 tons of nuclear waste is sitting by Lake Ontario to contaminate Lake Ontario and all the way, and maybe southern Ontario, southern Quebec, and upstate New York can benefit from the leak.
So, thank you very much. What's your name, please?
Chaitanya Kaliwar, or Chai for short.
Thank you, Chai. So without even beginning our panel, you can see that we have representation here in the room of people who can tell us firsthand about the impacts of the nuclear chain. And I want to note with that before we start that one of the things that's brought us together here today is this wonderful new book that's been produced by Women in Europe for a Common Future, both in German and English. In the English version, it's called The Critical Question, Nuclear Power, The Critical Question. And it traces all the path of the nuclear fuel chain from uranium mining to milling to transportation to nuclear waste, and also including the nuclear weapons cycle and how it has negatively impacted people's lives, including some of our sisters and brothers from the American Southwest. So I highly recommend this book to you that is over here. WCF did fantastic work of putting this together, first-hand stories. And that's what we're going to replicate here today, is some first-hand stories. And then we're very honored to have with us the film that we will finish up the day with, called Uranium, Is It a Country? A wonderful new movie about uranium mining in Australia and the impacts it's having there on the indigenous communities, on the Aboriginals. So, a renaissance in nuclear power would mean a renaissance in uranium mining, and this is something that you're going to hear about firsthand today.
We also have Miguel here, who's by Los Alamos.
Miguel Moreno's grandson?
From New Mexico. I live right below Los Alamos National Laboratories, where they develop nuclear weapons and the nuclear bomb and stuff like that. I'm with the Product of Aztlan Youth Organization, also based as a collaborative.
Thank you, Miguel.
Can I ask, I'm not on the program, but I wanted to ask everybody if you could just take a few seconds of silence for all of those families and communities that have suffered so drastically from the nuclear chain. Everywhere we go, we always take a moment to send positive energy to those victims of this chain, because we are fortunate in that we were able to travel, but we have thousands and thousands and thousands of families back in the U.S. and in many places other than that, the U.S. that we work with. And if you could just take a few moments to acknowledge their pain, and also to acknowledge that we have the possibility of victory over nuclear weapons.
Thank you, Dr. McLean. And actually, let me ask everyone to stand, and we'll just take that moment of silence before we start this. To bring us all together in the room, if we could take a moment of silence just to reflect A, on the victims that have suffered from the nuclear fuel chain, and B, on a future without radiation contamination that we're all working so much to achieve.
Gotcha. Excuse me, I guess I'm out of order again.
Dr. McLean.
We want to present this to you, Claire. Claire is a lifetime member of the No Nukes Club, and she's responsible for many of people of color being able to go where we need to go so that our voices are heard, that we speak for ourselves. This is a token of our appreciation, our love, and continued support for your and our work. And it was made by an indigenous sister from the States.
Thank you, Rikini. Well, it's always good to have the home team with you when you're going. Thank you. That's a real honor. Well, it's just a thank you, and to Women in Europe for Common Future and all our colleagues in WISE. We're a close-knit team, and it's the positive part. It's what really works for us. We're the good nuclear family. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Earl. I'm going to read you a bit about him. Earl Tully is member of this delegation that you see here from the Base Community Project of the Peace Development Fund of the United States. He's also a board member of Diné Care, and the Diné people are the people around the American Southwest who've been most affected and closely to uranium mines, which you will hear about shortly. Diné Care, which stands for Diné Care is Citizens Against Ruining Our Environment. It is an all-Navajo organization, many of you have heard of the Navajo people, comprised of a federation of grassroots community activists in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. Diné Care's goals center on the empowerment of Navajo communities to defend themselves from unwanted environmentally destructive development, and the promotion of sustainable, small-scale, value-added industries, decentralized energy production, recycling, and environmental generation. Since its formation in 1988, Diné Care has worked on several environmental projects across the Navajo Nation, including battles against logging and uranium mining on sacred Navajo lands. And certainly many of you are familiar with these beautiful Navajo lands because you've seen them often in television and in movies when they show the American Southwest in westerns, and Earl is directly from that community. It's a beautiful place on the planet, and he's going to give us a brief overview of the situation on Navajo lands and in the Southwest. Thank you very much, Earl.
Thank you. It is an honor, and I want to give you just a little history as to what I know. Is there anybody from Poland here? If not, maybe you're closer to it, to the country than I am. But I supposedly have a. My father was in World War II. He and a Polish soldier made a pact that when they came home from the war, they would name their sons after one another. So my eldest brother, who was the oldest brother in our family, his name is Tripovosky. So if you hear Tripovosky tooling, you want to know where that name came from. It was an agreement that was made. What I'd like to share with you is this little sign back here. Warning, nuclear free zone. When people lead, leaders will follow. This is a result of the people's action. And by that, the Navajo tribal government was able to pass a resolution deeming the Navajo Nation free, a nuclear-free zone. So with that, you understand that there is a great power in the movement of the people, and I wanted to share that with you. The other aspect of this is that in the movement, in the actions, and also the activities that we end up doing, we are a generation of individuals and folks who were impressed by previous actions. Some of our comrades are no longer here with us, but their eyes are sparkling in the night sky, and they passed on into the next world. The reason that I say that we are here as brothers and sisters, not in the sense of being created by the Creator, but we're all part of the Five-Finger Clan. You and I are part of the Five-Finger Clan. And I want to share that real quickly with you because that is the genesis, that is the basis, that is the root of our particular movement. I cannot speak as an indigenous person and saying that tradition and culture is me. I have nieces and nephews that are coming about, and I will have grandchildren that are going to be of different races and ethnic backgrounds. So I cannot be inclusive. I cannot be inclusive because uranium and the ills of cancer is going to impact me, impact my community, just as well as it's going to impact you. It is important that we share that. Having a companion who survived cancer, I know what it feels like, but I cannot give you the numbers as to what she's exposed to that gave her cancer. But I understand what the treatment is. I understand what that is. In this particular day and age, in 2009, we are barely coming up with words that will explain what uranium, what cancer, what these ailments are, because it never was in our traditional language. We're just barely coming together on that. The society and the science basically will say that this is H2O. To us, water is life. It's not beyond chemistry. You and I are human beings. We are not collateral damage. We are not individuals that can be discarded. Nor can we discard our companions who may have cancer because they may have parts of their bodies removed. We have to feel that spirit, and we have to stay with ourselves. And for that, I wanted to share a couple of things with you. In this particular movement of BASE, building action for sustainable environments, we feel like we have the equation. Give us the formula as to how you deem clean as clean, and then we will do our own calculation. Understanding our own calculation, we may be having contributions from our prayers, from our traditional knowledge, and that may be possible. Where I come from, we have Western medicine and we have traditional medicine, and those two healers have come together to provide service to us. some of the songs and prayers that we have as protection songs and prayers, you know, the Creator still communicates with us, His children. I want you to know that very well, and I'm very, very pleased to be here with you and to see you as an audience. And I don't see any ties or suits and things of that nature, so I know I'm amongst family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Earl. Is this on? Will you hear this? Thank you. And what I should say is that our panel here is going to address the American Southwest, Africa through Niger, South Africa, and also northern India. So you're going to hear a range of, and we're going to go through these quickly so we can have some Q&A and also talk to some of the other people who are with us in the room before we see this very powerful film. I also want to let you know that if you're interested in more information, not only is there a lot of information on this side from Women in Europe for a Common Future and WISE, but also some materials from IFG. And the World Information Service on Energy has a booth upstairs in the Klima Forum that I highly encourage you to visit before you leave. They have lots of important information there. And I assume you also have a sign-up sheet for people who, if they want to stay in touch with WISE, they can do that. And in fact, if someone here has a piece of paper that they could pass around and we could get names of anyone who your name, your organization, and your email, if you'd like to stay in touch with efforts to keep nuclear power as a sanctioned, and I will actually at the end tell you where it sits in the documents of the UN, what the status of it is right now, as nuclear power being subsidized as a potential mitigation for climate change. Our second speaker is going to be someone who I've really had enormous pleasure to get to know over just the last 4 months. Charlotte Megion is the International Relations Coordinator for Réseau Sortir de Nucléaire, or the Network of Getting Out of Nuclear, from France. And actually, she is very involved with a number of efforts. But what's really extraordinary for many of you who've been involved in this movement for a long time is France, which is one of the most nuclearized countries in the world. I think Belgium, France, and Japan are the leaders, each with about more than 70% of their power coming from nuclear generation, has for many, many years not had an effective domestic nuclear power campaign. But Charlotte belongs to the organization that effectively helped stop the Superphénix fast breeder reactor, but she has conducted and pulled together and helped mobilize, together with WISE, one of the most energetic, active campaigns I've ever seen. We've been putting things on for a number of years here, but they've done postcards, they've done banner hangings, they've done 3 press actions, they've done petitions, and on top of everything else, they even put a gas mask on the Little Mermaid and got all of us down there to. We've worked together with collaboratively for many years, but we really welcome the energy and inventiveness of the great new participation here at the Framework Convention on Climate Change of the Réseau Sortir de Nucléaire, and Charlotte Megion in particular, who's a great spirit and organizes us all to do even more than we think we could possibly do. So welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you very much, Claire. Well, I will talk to you about Niger. It will not be a first-hand report because I've never been to Niger, but I'm in contact with some people which are political refugees from Niger, from the collective Areva ne fera pas la loi au Niger, so Areva shall not make the law in Niger. And I will just say a few words about the situation in Niger, and maybe if you're more interested in it, I can connect you with some people who can tell you better than I all the problems. Basically, what is to be said is that there is also a problem of indigenous people being dispossessed of their land in Niger. Because the region I'm talking about is North Niger, the Arlit region. It is desert, and it's but some people are living in it. Tuareg people are living in it, living from cattle, from agriculture, and well, you know that France has kept strong ties with its former colonies, and that it has kept a hand over all the governments and strong links. And we For example, in many countries and in Niger. France has been mining uranium in Niger for decades, and through the firm Areva, which is state-owned. And this is why we call the collective Areva shall not make the law, because Areva is making the law. Areva is feeding political troubles there. Areva is taking benefit of the state of emergency they created by a president who has changed the constitution to become elected again, President Tanja. And France is covering up what is happening in Niger, just like it is covering up many things in other African countries. Well, to talk about uranium mining in Niger is to become the second exporter of uranium, and still it is the poorest country in the world. So you can see that uranium is no wealth at all. And it is a big problem, environmental problem, first of all, because there's a huge pollution, contaminated soils, contaminated waters. One of the two big mines is in open air, so that contamination can just fly. Groundwaters are becoming depleted because uranium mining uses water too, and it is a fossil groundwater. So, and in a region where it does not rain, so in 40 years we expect it to be depleted, and then just Areva will go away and find another place to mine, and what happens then to the people? And problem is also big health problems, because for many times there was no protection at all for the workers. There is a tiny protection by now because of protest, but it remains highly insufficient. Health problem too, because the workers, uranium mining workers, do not have a survey, and when they have lung cancer, it is always diagnosed as AIDS, so that nobody can point out radioactivity. I must say also that people have no information at all about radioactivity, and this is also why many of them do not actually protest against uranium mining, because they are not aware of the effects of radioactivity on health, and it is just terrible. There's also a huge social problem too, because of these Tuareg people being despoiled of their land, and because of this poverty, because there is only one road, for example, in Arlit, the big city, and it is only reserved for trucks going to the mine and to the facility. And a few months ago there was a huge flood in the whole city, and yes, the only thing that was restored was this road for the trucks carrying uranium ore. So what I would like to say is that France keeps saying that that nuclear is clean, but we cannot say that it is clean when it's causing such big health damages, environmental damages, and when it leads to cover up political problems. And yes, that's what I wanted to say.